Welcome back, everybody, this week in America. Great to have you with us on the program, talking about the book, Finding Home, Everything You Need to Know and Do for Home Buying Success by Michael Trickey. Michael is a CPA and expert in real estate finance transactions from the Chicago area. He has 35 years of experience in the financial services industry, active in residential and commercial real estate markets. Now, Michael has acquired and sold single-family homes, condos, apartment buildings, and commercial properties. After seeing the challenges his two millennial-age daughters and their friends faced in today's housing market, he decided to write Finding Home to provide guidance that is easy to understand and follow on the many aspects of buying a home. The book is Finding Home, Everything You Need to Know and Do for Home Buying Success. And Michael Trickey with us on This Week in America. Michael, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Rick. It's great to be here.
This is such an interesting book, and you really take people by the hand and walk them through the process. Thoroughly researched, meticulously laid out. How long did it take to write this book? Because I'm not sure there's anything you forgot to put in the book. This really is concise, and it's easy to read as well. How long have you been working on this?
Well, the book from start to finish was about 18 months, and a lot of it went along pretty fast because I do have so much time in the industry and experience in these transactions. Also, in writing it, I worked very closely with, you mentioned, with my daughters and their friends and other young people in a peer group or in a focus group, if you will, going through it and listening to their questions and then responding to their questions and clarifying things they didn't understand within the book.
It's interesting because in the book we follow Jack and Eva. Talk about that because they are central. Jack is a software developer. Eva's a elementary school teacher. They're deciding if they want to rent, if they want to own, and they're going through this whole ownership process. Talk about, because we can sort of relate to them from the very beginning, and we've got Jack's dad involved, who's sort of an advisor as we go. This was an interesting approach to take.
Yeah, as I was going through it, it occurred to me that a lot of these topics, I didn't want to sound in the book like I was just standing at a podium lecturing. I wanted to make it more conversational, like people sitting around a kitchen table, talking about credit, talking about down payments, how affordable, what can you realistically buy within different price ranges? You know, where do you look? What's the whole process about? And so I thought, let's introduce in the book a young couple going through the process. And there's lots of questionnaires and forms that they go through to qualify themselves, if they're ready, how much they have for a down payment, is their credit good, and then trying to figure out what type of house they want, in what type of neighborhood, where they want to be. And so I thought it would be easier if I took this young couple through and had them talk with their father about it, fill out the forms in the book so that my readers could get some idea of how to really fill out the forms. Then created a companion website, findinghomebook.com, where you can go and download blank versions of all the forms that you can edit and fill out for yourself. And so you kind of have a guide going through it, the young couple, the forms, and it just kind of leads you through the whole process.
It's when you go through the process, there are a number of forms, and it's so nice because they're there. You sort of get like a trial run. You're familiar with the forms before they're thrown in front of you, and you've got 30 seconds to sign them. And it's interesting. Right. One of the reviews says the public is not educated in the nomenclature that banks write into the one document that very well may change your life. And I was thinking about that. There's so many words and expressions and terms that are used, and again, in the various forms that you break down in the book. And if you do one wrong or you think it's something that it's really not, it really can change your life and create a lot of financial difficulty for many years to come.
Yeah, the home is typically the largest asset that most people buy. And, there's a lot of emotion that's involved in the whole process. And what I'm trying to do here is help people to kind of step back and say, okay, this is a process. It has its own vocabulary. It has its own steps. And as long as you understand the vocabulary and follow those steps, you can do this. You can do this right. And you'll find the home that you can comfortably afford to pay for, that has the features that you want in the area that you want.
The book is called Finding Home, Everything You Need to Know and Do for Home Buying Success. Michael Trickey is the author. Our guest in the program. His website is findinghomebook.com. Book available all across the country. And of course, you can link directly onto Michael's website by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. One of the first things you talk about is buying home involves preparation. Buying a home is more than watching House Hunters on HGTV. There really is a lot that goes into that.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that preparation. And when you were talking to your daughters and the group, were they surprised at all the work that goes into, even before you start the process of looking for a home, you have to lay that financial foundation?
Yeah, that's the term that I like to use in the book, financial foundation. When you're building a home, you set a structural foundation. But when you're buying one, you really have to make sure you have a solid financial foundation in place. And the financial foundation is really made up of your balance sheet, how much you have in savings, your assets, versus how much money you owe to like student loans and credit cards and such, and also how much you're earning and how steady your earnings are. Over time, have you been in the same type of job or the same type of company or field for a period of at least 2 years? So that's the financial part of it. There's another part to the financial foundation, which is your credit. Credit is really a demonstration of how seriously you take your obligations. When you borrow money, do you pay it back on time? Do you actually treat it with respect, something that you are obligated to pay? And the combination of your assets, liabilities, and how well you've demonstrated you pay your obligations are the components of your financial foundation. And those are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I apologize for interrupting. The credit, that's interesting because there are roadblocks, there are mistakes if they look at their credit report, or they may be deficient, but you sort of say, okay, here's what you can do. Here's how you dispute. Here's how you can take what is a negative on your credit report and change it. That's
correct. The credit is really, I say in the book that credit's not a competition, but they do keep score. And it's true. You've probably heard of a FICO score or a Vantage score. Those are mechanisms to kind of boil down your credit history, the kinds of credit you've had, how well you pay over time into a single number that people can use for comparison purposes. And if you understand what goes into that credit number, you can take proactive steps towards improving the number. It's something. It's not a mystery once you understand the pieces of it, and you can really help yourself out. And when you improve your credit, you'll qualify for much better loan products. You'll be able to get a lower interest rate. You may be able to borrow a higher percentage of the value of your home. You'll find the whole process of getting a loan easier. So it's very important. Finding Home, Everything You Need to Know and Do for Home Buying Success. Michael Trickey, our guest on the program, has 35 years experience in the financial services industry and in residential and commercial real estate markets, a CPA, an expert in real estate finance transactions from the Chicago area. The book is, we talk about assessing the situation, getting started. There's a readiness checklist there. There's a checklist for everything, which will walk you again through the process. And it's interesting, we talked before a little bit about affordability, and something that I can remember the first home we bought. If you see a home and it's $249,000 and you get it for $240,000, you think that's the cost of the home, and you calculate all of the other expenses in there. It can be thousands of dollars more on top of that for all the various fees and cost involved in the transaction. Yeah, that's one of in working with our focus group, That's one of the biggest areas where I found that there was confusion. When you're approaching a transaction, you need to understand that the banks have certain costs. The lenders, not always a bank, could be a mortgage company, but the lenders have certain costs of making a loan to you. There's a cost of appraising the value of the home you want to buy. There's a cost of obtaining a report to show that the person who's offering to sell it to you really owns the house. That's called a title report or a title abstract. There's costs of verifying that what you've put on your application is correct. There's costs of pulling your credit report and so forth. The lenders generally charge you back for some or all of these costs. In addition, they have their internal costs for reviewing all the paperwork that you submit to them in the application process, and they may charge you a fee for that. Also, loans have different components to them. There's the balance, the amount you're borrowing, the term of the loan, how long you're going to be paying it back over, and also the interest rate that they're going to charge you. One of the other upfront costs, you may be able to lower the interest rate on your loan by paying something called points up front. And that is a cost where if you may be charged 1 point, and for paying 1% of the amount of your loan up front, the lender may be willing to lower the rate on the loan from, say, 4% to 3.5%. And depending on how long you're going to be living in the home, it may be very worthwhile for you to pay that point. So we go through all of that with simple examples as to different types of choices you're going to have in the transaction and what is right for you based on your individual circumstances.
And you can go through the book, and if it's like, okay, I don't need this section, I'm fine with that, you can find the section that is relevant to what you're looking for and go directly there and get the questions answered. The book is called Finding Home, Everything You Need to Know and Do for Home Buying Success. Michael Trickey, the author, our guest on the program. The book is findinghomebook.com. So much to talk about. I'm skipping over some things, and we'll have Michael back on future programs to talk about some of the issues there. And you talk about the importance, and again, this goes back to affordability. There's so much that goes into determining the affordability. You may make the same amount as somebody else and figure you can afford a home equal to what that other person has, but your everyday expenses may be higher or lower than theirs. Talk about that big picture, putting everything together to fully understand what you can afford, because it may not be the figure that comes off the top of your head.
Yeah, that's for sure. Somebody once said it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep.
Yes.
And that goes towards home buying as well. There's some key ratios that you need to consider when you're buying a home. One is the amount of gross income you're making before taking into consideration any taxes or other types of expenses. Okay, and you want to look at how much your home payment will be compared to that amount of income. Then you want to look at, okay, that's fine. That gives me what's known as a debt to income ratio. But I also want to know how much the mortgage payment is going to be compared to my gross income minus other debts that monthly debt costs that I have right now. For instance, you might have a student loan. You might have credit cards, you may have a car loan, you may have some sort of personal loan. Okay, so when you take the gross amount you make minus those debts, you come to a number, and then you divide the amount you're going to have to pay for your mortgage by that number. And so now you've got a debt to another form of debt to income ratio. Then you'll also finally look at, okay, now I'm going to take out my withholding taxes, and you get down to what I call your disposable income after your debts. Lenders don't look at that number very much, but you should, because that's really what affects your affordability. Lenders can only tell you if you qualify for a loan. They can't tell you if you're going to be comfortable paying the monthly payment. You have to go through that exercise yourself. And by looking at how much you make minus all your debts, minus uh, what you have to pay for taxes. You get to the disposable income number. Then you start deducting your fixed expenses. Are you going to get the cable TV? Do you have certain costs of commuting? You have to eat. So you start deducting some of those costs too. And finally, you get down to the bottom line, and you want to take into account savings as well, because you should always pay yourself. You should always be saving for retirement or your kids' education or whatever. Always have a little bit aside there. But what I do is I go through a very logical progression with the tables so that you can see what all those numbers are and assess along the way how much you're comfortable paying for your home.
And it's interesting, once you start thinking about that, your everyday expenses, I'm guessing, for most people, probably far greater than they ever imagined when you stop and you break it down. You talked about being comfortable with what the bank says that you can afford to pay because it could alter the lifestyle dramatically. You've got this great new home,
Yes.
and you're not able to buy furniture for it because your everyday expenses exceed really what you'd be comfortable with to go buy furniture. As Michael
Right.
is talking, all of the information there is basically plug into the information in the book and information at the website, findinghomebook.com. You don't have to go look for forms and figure all of this out yourself. It's like this number goes here, and this will get you the answer that you're looking for. It is really it's a must if you're buying a home. And about 30 seconds or so left, Michael, before we have to leave here. This is great insight for people, whether they're buying their fifth or sixth home, as a lot of people have said who have written reviews in the book, as well as for the first-time buyer. It's basically anybody buying a home can benefit from the book Finding Home.
Yes. The book has all the new laws. There last October in 2015. Some very major changes went into place that they simplified forms and changed some of the disclosures. And this book includes all the updates. So even people who have done transactions before will find information that's new and very important to their future transactions.
And you have access not only to the book, but the website, findinghomebook.com. Valuable resources there as well. The book is Finding Home, Everything You Need to Know and Do for Home Buying Success. Michael Trickey is the author. That's Trickey. Go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to Michael's website. The book's available all across the country, and of course, information available at his website. So much to talk about. We will have Michael back in the future for more programs. Michael, an excellent job on the book. Thank you for being with us on the program.
Thank you, Rick. I was glad to be here.
Thank you. It's an excellent book, Finding Home, Everything You Need to Know and Do for Home Buying Success. Michael Trickey, the author, and our guest on This Week in America. All the information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us.